and welcome back to KTN Friday Briefing. Thank you very much for keeping it KTN News. I want to start off by just giving a short introduction of my guest anchor this evening. I mentioned one or two things about him when we were starting, but let's get to have a closer look at who exactly he is. And he is the lead pastor and founder of the Purpose Center Church. That's, of course, along Mombasa Road, leading up to about 1,500 congregants and growing. He says that. He's also the Group Chief Executive Officer of that's Mobile Decisioning Africa Limited. Actually, this number is wrong. It's supposed to be 28 countries. This company started right here in Kenya, but it has now grown to 28 countries. Let me tell you a bit of what Mode does. Well, it is a technology company that has operations in 28 countries globally. Now, the company that has a customer base of about 200 million customer extends small loans worth about between 5 shillings and 1,800 shillings to mobile phone users. That's just one of the things that this company does. He also founded Quest Holdings. Now, this particular company has a very interesting story, and is going to be telling us more about it. Let's move on to what else he has worked at Credit Reference Bureau Africa and Allegis Group in Houston, Texas, and he was actually picked as one of the 2015 top 40 under 14, definitely, you know, meaning that he's definitely doing a good job. He's also a father of 3 and, of course, a husband. And it's great to meet him. We want to know more about him and what he, of course, has been doing, and also inspiring us to be better. He says that, you know, the way he found us is not the way he's going to leave us. Let's take a look and talk to him, have a little chit-chat. It's so great to have you here. Twitter is already, you know, let me say hi again. Such a gentleman. Oh. You know, the moment I said that, you know, we are going to be hosting you. Yeah. And I was, you know, throwing all these things that you do. Everyone was like, how is he able to do that? A pastor, a group CEO, a father, a husband. Yeah. Those are serious roles. How are you able to balance?
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks for having me over, yeah. Betty. I just believe in people, right? And I think the most important thing I'm learning is to work yourself out of whatever you do. And true maturity is working yourself out of your dream.
All right.
If you can achieve that, you'll find great people who can do what you thought you could do better than you. And that enables me to keep doing new things because people keep coming and replacing me.
I like that. Now, you are very big on people. You know, you always talk about empowering people. And, you know, that was one of the things that you're talking about during the Global Entrepreneurship Summit.
Yep.
How was that experience for you, you know, talking to, you know, hundreds of entrepreneurs? Are we hungry? You know, are Kenyan youth hungry right now for greatness?
First, let me say I can't believe KTN made me read that first part about Pastor Nganga.
we'll get to that in a short while. We'll get to that.
I'm just kidding. News is news, right?
Yes,
people are everything, right? Humanity is everything. What we have on the earth is people, right? And it's the one thing none of us has been given permission to have dominion over. It's people, human beings, are to dominate the earth, not to dominate other human beings. And the moment we can learn to empower one another, encourage one another, be patient with each other, this world is actually a place that we can all share and live together, but greed has taken us to very interesting places. So people for me becomes an important place. I may not be able to influence 7 billion people, but one person at a time.
One person at a time.
Yeah.
Now, you have a very interesting story because there's a point you actually dropped out of college.
Yeah.
There's a point where you were declared bankrupt.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Let me say the story. You know, it has so many versions.
Yes.
So let me just clarify. Yeah, there is a history in my life where, you know, I was a young man. I did things I thought were smart. They were not. In hindsight, they say hindsight is always 20/20, right?
Yes, yes.
And so I've been working. I'm working with some people, going back to finish things I should have finished. Walked out of a class when I had 2 or 3 semesters left because I didn't agree with certain principles. But I've
You
gone
didn't
back.
agree with what the
I
lecturers...
didn't agree with the lecturers. Let's just say I was a rowdy young man. I didn't agree because the thing we were arguing about was more around, fine, it was a struggle, you knew it was a struggle. I just left on principle of things I didn't agree with.
All right.
That they were saying about Africa or where, you know, where we've come from and where we're going. So I was just an argumentative little young man who felt I had a point to prove.
But do you regret looking back?
No, I don't regret. I don't regret. I'd never live life backwards. Never. You know, we make our mistakes, pick up, dust off, move on, right? We'll catch up with whatever we have to catch up on later.
Yeah.
As long as you're not destroying people, and so you may make your mistakes, you may hurt people along the way. The important thing is that you dust yourself of the past. You know, all of us, none of us can rewind, right? None of us can change the past, but all of us can have a different ending. So it's consistently about what's over there and what can I change now that I've learned the lesson I've learned here. So and about the bankruptcy, yes, it was, there were points of our lives that were very tough. It was more of evictions and auctioneers. I never ever filed bankruptcy. I wouldn't be able to hold certain offices. But it was just when we lost our first company, it was very tough, and everything that we owned that had been taken up as a security for the business, it was tough. It's tough to keep it. When you're an entrepreneur, things can completely shift for you. And so if there was a way I could have filed the American kind of bankruptcy where, you know, you can put everything on hold while you reorganize your life, I would have, but the Kenyan bankruptcy is a whole different one. So that chapter of our lives with my family was an absolutely rough one. But again, no regrets. No regrets. Do it all over again, because that's why God has been able to teach us the lessons He taught us. And you don't repeat that class. You never want to repeat that class.
So the thing is, does every entrepreneur have to go through failure? Because that's, you know, the people who made it, like yourself, that's one of the things that you always teach. Does it have to be that way?
Somebody said something amazing at the summit, and since some people may not have attended, let me tell you what they said. This man said, don't look at it as failure. Never look at things as failures. When you start a business, at that point of startup, think of it as an experiment. Sometimes experiments go bad.
Yes.
Okay? Sometimes experiments just don't work. So never look at it as failure, because one of the things I've been teaching a lot is to tell people, let's not glorify failure. All right? A lot of us want to be taught the 20 ways to fail and 16 ways to come out of failure. Let's not glorify failure. It's a tough thing. It's a horrible thing to go through it. But if you think of it as an experiment and you just say, I've learned a way not to do this thing, I'm not going to do it this way again, then that's what happens. And through life, Betty, I'm convinced all of us have had an experiment go bad one time or the other.
And it's okay.
It's just about the magnitude of someone's experiment versus yours. You know, someone broke your heart at 16, someone else's heart was broken at engagement, you know.
Or on the wedding day.
On the wedding day, you know, it's a magnitude of, you know, you may feel you can't compare the two. Well, they're both experiments that went bad. And so even in business, think of what you're going into as an experiment. This will help you have a very different mindset about how you deal with it if it doesn't go right.
Okay. You're also very passionate about the youth.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you feel that, you know, the youth of today have been empowered enough to be the next Julian Kyula, to be the next, you know, Bill Gates, and, you know, all these other people? Do you feel that Kenyan youth are empowered today?
You know, I was reading something. I thought it would be profound. It's a society. You can tell a society by the kind of old men it has. The old men that plant trees that know they will never enjoy its shade.
That's true.
That's an amazing nation, right? And I look at Kenya, Africa, I keep asking myself, do we have people who are ready to plant trees they know they'll never sit under the shade of that tree? Do we have enough going on that is being passed on to the next generation? I think humanity is becoming a lot more selfish, a lot more self-centered. The family unit is breaking down. It's getting tougher. It's getting tougher for pastors. It's getting tougher for leaders, for mentors. Anyone who's trying to do anything in society, it's becoming harder because we're becoming very self-centered, self-centric. It's becoming very me. The world has become me. Because the world is me, shifting community is becoming tougher by the day. I don't envy any leader in any leadership position, right? The pressures of leadership are becoming harder. So are we doing enough? I think a lot is being done. Is it enough? No.
It's not enough.
It's not enough, because we can't seem to to mentor enough of the next generation. So the best thing to do is to
that's where the problem is, mentorship?
Not mentorship, because also that's another overused word. I think it's just I think it's just raising sons and raising daughters the right way, and being able to pass on values and to the next generation. Actually, I think if you are a selfish father, self-centered, it's very hard to have a child who may be different from you, because you transfer certain values there. So if charity does begin at home, it's because values begin at home.
All right.
And what we have to do, we're not doing enough. We're doing the best we can.
Okay.
I salute every person out there making a difference, but goodness, it's tough.
There's a lot to be done.
Ooh, there's a lot to be done,
Yes,
especially in a society that has stopped caring and stopped, well, the people who do care, but society in itself has stopped really caring about what happens 50 years from now.
Do you think parents have contributed to that sort of disconnect? You know, we've seen stories, you know, on the news of kids who are found doing all manner of things, and, you know, everyone says, you know, it all goes back to the parents.
Yeah.
So is it also a challenge to them?
But in the time of Shakespeare, there were, I understand there are about 100,000 words in the English language. I'd read that. I'm not sure if it's factual, but I read it somewhere.
Yes,
and then they say now that we have, in one newspaper today, in one New York Times, you have more information that they had in an entire century put together. The world has become absolutely informed. The world has become a lot more, the world has become a village. Yet, in becoming a village, the exposure we've had has actually made us stop being the center we were ever supposed to be, and looking at community. Community has broken down. Right? Community has broken down. We have become impatient. We have become impersonal. This is not general. There's a lot of good happening, but I'm addressing the other side of things happening, which is consuming us faster. So because people have been exposed to all this information, and because the world is delivering this information to us a lot faster, we want things to happen a lot faster, whereas before we were a lot more patient to allow things to happen. But now you have a microwave that heats your tea in 25 seconds, whereas before there was a process to what you needed to do. And as a result, we've become less tolerant of each other. And those are the roots of the real matter. It doesn't matter. Go to Croatia, go to Brazil, come to Kenya. We're going through the same things.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to talk about, especially, you know, in terms of the youth, but I also want to shift your attention to the church. You are a church leader. I think in the last couple of months you've seen church leaders, you know, in the news for all the wrong reasons. And you know, recently, you know, even the story we had, Pastor Nganga, you know, all these issues surrounding him, Pandambegu kind of pastors. Do you think the church has lost its ground? You know, is there something that's the church is not doing, or the church is doing that it should not be doing?
You know, and you and I come here tonight.
That definitely had to feature somewhere.
Look, I told you leadership has become tougher, right? So if I go to a bank and one teller organizes for robbers to come and rob this bank, and they come and they successfully rob 20 million shillings, and you arrest all of us in the bank because you think we colluded, I think there's been some unfair judgment. There's been some absolute unfair judgment and mistreatment of people in leadership. I read somewhere, and I want to give this news to Kenyans. They can Google it. I went on Google and I looked up pastors and leadership, and one of the pieces that came up that shocked me was a piece on New York Times. They interviewed pastors, 10,000 of them surveyed, and just asked them very general questions. And it's clear we have a challenge. We have a challenge because we are in a transition. There's a way things were done. There's a way things need to be done. So right now I have a 8-year-old who asks me extremely brilliant questions. If I'm teaching him Father Abraham in church, I'm not connecting to the things this young man is dealing with. So there's a transition that has happened, and as a result, leadership has become tougher. But in coming back to the question, so they did this survey, and out of that, 84% of pastors are going through depression. 84%, that's a high number. 86% of their spouses had been treated for depression.
Wow. And why?
94% of the pastors said that if they had another job offer, they would take it within 24 hours. I'll tell you why. Dealing with people is hard. Dealing with people is very hard. Nobody wants to put themselves on a pedestal to be monitored on how they drink their tea, how they go to the toilet, whether they spend 2 hours or 15 minutes. No, nobody on earth wants to ever be on that pedestal. But for those that are called to it, they will go through the test of time, through the trials, through things that will come their way. And it's the same way of being a president, being a church leader. It's true that there are particular values and things, but you know what? It's these stats I was giving you, and there are even worse ones in there. I don't want to go into them. I'll stop at the third one. The point I'm trying to make is, man, it's tough being a leader. It's tough being a father, right? You know, let's just get real. It's tough being a father, but you just had a baby.
Yes, that's it's true.
It's tough being a mother, isn't it? And that's a leader of 1.
Yes. That's
try be a leader of 20. Try be a leader of 30, and try make one mistake. So it doesn't excuse the mistake. I just think it's getting tougher. And as a result, because every leader is under this microscope, we are finding that leaders are getting to a place that makes it almost impossible to bear. And when you get there, and I think there's a combination of things. One, I don't think any man was ever supposed to take God's glory. And the moment men take God's glory, you can't deal. You can't deal with that. You can't deal with people giving you this wow thing about, oh, you are this big person. The moment you start dealing with that, trust me, you're in trouble. It's just a matter of time. But the other thing is, in all these dreams we have, and no matter how big you become, there's a favorite quote I have from the Bible. It says, let no man think of himself higher than he ought to. Man, all of us need to also be easy. Just be easy. Just do your work. You know, we're just here. We are temporarily passing by. When we get to heaven, there's no line for
this was
special VVIP. We're all together, and most of us will be like, Allah, this one is going the other way. So the point I'm trying to make is it's tough. It's tougher in this day.
All right.
Yeah.
I want us to just pause for a bit and go read something there, but we'll come back and discuss some more.
Sure.
It's a very interesting story about something that is ongoing. Please join me.
I join you.
Yes. You know, earlier on you did so well when we were co-anchoring together.
I can do this.
Yes, you can actually. I think, you know what, Pastor CEO, have a seat.
You want me to sit down?
Yes.
Okay.
As you can see, it's a hot seat.
Yeah.
Pastor, CEO, father, husband,